Welcome to yet another live stream with Fabric February. And today we have Oliver and Tobias from sci-an joining us. They are our feedback sponsor, I would say. They're going to help us and you provide the best feedback on what you think about Fabric February, and if you like it or if you want us to improve, which of course we hope you do. We hope you give us all the great feedback at the conference. So Oliver and Tobias will show us their product and the tool and how it works. So that's part of the topic today. Yes, do you want to just say hello to Tobias and Oliver? Because I'm just talking.
Yes, of course. Hello. I was not sure if we are allowed to speak.
Hello.
But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, amazing. Before I hand the stage over to you guys, I'm going to quickly introduce Fabric February, because if anyone is new here, hasn't joined before, then of course we want to just tell you what this Fabric February thing was again. So Fabric February is a brand new conference. It's dedicated to all things fabric. It's happening in Oslo, 7th to 9th of February. So it's now 3 days. We have expanded the amount of days because we got a lot of great feedback that this was something people wanted to join. So what we're going to do is that the first day, that 7th of February, it's going to be a pre-con. So that's a whole training day with Patrick LeBlanc and Adam Saxon from Guy in a Cube. So yes, they're famous superstars in the data world. They're coming to Norway. First time we have Guy in a Cube in Norway. And they're going to have a training day introducing you to all the things you need to know about Fabric. So this is the perfect opportunity to start learning and figure out what are the main features and so on. So that's the first day, February 7th. Then the next day, that's the main conference day. This is where you can choose between a lot of great sessions. We have a lot of international speakers joining us. And then you just dive into your favorite topic during that day. And then we have post-cons. So the Friday after, you can really deep dive into the topics based on your role. So for instance, if you are a data analyst, Benny, Just, and Asgeir, they're coming to teach you Fabric and how you can use that, how you should use that if you're coming from the data analyst point of view. Or you might be a data governance lead or have some sort of data governance role or interest in general. Then Gabby and Anton is coming to show you that. They're going to teach you how to set up your governance in Fabric. And that's also going to be hands-on. So it's going to be a hands-on session, a hands-on workshop. And then also you can choose to do the data engineering training day by Luke, if you want to know how to do Fabric from the data engineering perspective. So we have this 3-day amazingness with the Fabric, starting out with the introduction with Guy in a Cube, where they really go through, everything basically in Fabric and give you that first look. Then you can dive into your favorite topics on the actual day and pick and choose between a lot of great sessions. And then on Friday, you can deep dive on the topic that makes most sense for you based on the role that you have. Yes, so that is Fabric February. And if you haven't already, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter /X, or YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, do that. And the hot tip is to join our newsletter, because that is where we might give our super subscribers some extra additional benefits and maybe some discounts and so on. So that's a tip for you to join that newsletter if you want that. All right. So that was Fabric February. That was that. And now we have our feedback sponsor. So sci-an, you're the show today. You're the ones that are gonna teach us all the things about your product. Right, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. No, I mean, it's really nice. I think there's going to be a lot of different types of contents during the conference, and I think that there's going to be a lot of impressions for the attendees and the people, of course, that care the most about what your impressions are, what your ideas are the organizers of the event. And it is really a great support for them in improving the event if you openly talk to them about what you like, what you don't like, and so on. And we have a short presentation prepared on what it is that we will be doing with the Fabric February and what it is that we are doing as a freshly founded company, basically this October this year. So let me quickly share my slides. I hope you are seeing them right now properly.
Let's see. I'll add them to the stage. There they are.
There they are. All right, and I do not want to print them. And there we go. Exactly. So Tobias and I, we've basically both done our PhDs in astrophysics, and now since a few months or so, we have started our company that now works with integrating AI tools into the event industry. And that may not seem like a very specific link at first, but the basic link of this is data, right? Data analysis and a passion for data-driven solutions. I think like most of the people that attend the Fabric February also have. We did our PhDs at the Max Planck Institute for Astronomy in Heidelberg, and after several startup grants, we have now basically done the full incorporation. And what we would like to talk a bit about is the potential of events and the potential of AI solutions within events in order to generate better data and in order to understand the community more that you are working for, and in order to generate new insights from that professional community. And for this part, Tobias is going to tell you a little bit about the general developments of AI in the last years and why now is the perfect time to incorporate more solutions into the event space.
Yes, thank you, Oliver. I'm going to start with some context so that you can better put in the next things that we show. So what's artificial intelligence? So artificial intelligence is basically a part of computer science where we try to make machines recognize their environment and make useful or sensible decisions inside this environment. And a part of artificial intelligence, a subpart is machine learning. So this is a technique that's very prominent in this field. What we do there is basically we use machines to train machines by utilizing mathematical algorithms to have a tool converge to a training set. So we have a training set, and now we try to get our model aligned with this training set. And to do this, we use different statistical algorithms to do this. And a subfield, again, of machine learning then is deep learning. And deep learning, we do this in multiple layers. So, for example, if you want to recognize a cat, instead of just recognizing the cat at once, you do this in layers. You first start with edge detection, and then from this edge detection, then you can have shapes. You can then figure out, so how round are those shapes? How big are those in relation to other shapes in the image? And then from this, you can then eventually figure out that it's cat, right? So you do this in layers. So this is also very useful then if you want to reuse your models, obviously, as you can imagine. So here we have a couple of examples of, on the right-hand side, of neural networks that I use to detect objects in images. So that's a very common application of AI, and it's been around for years now, decades even. And then also this generative AI, where you have something generated. So you want something new, basically, based on input data, of course, but you want it to generate something new, whether that's text or an image. And that's something that has really gotten traction in the last couple years. And why is that? We go to the next slide.
Yes.
Thank you. So let's look at one specific field, natural language processing, short NLP. So there has been really a breakthrough in 2017. So with the paper Attention is All You Need, it's a paper released in 2017, where the transformer model was described. So this transformer model is basically a new model to utilize neural networks to learn things. It cannot just be applied to natural language processing, but also images. But I'm going to focus on natural language processing here. And the transformer model is really innovative because it allows you to easily parallelize the training step. So this then allows us to use very large training data, because we can spread out the training process across a vast number of machines. Another thing that these transformer models inherently support is attention. Attention is basically, says that when you generate the output, then you have to look at different parts of the input with a weighting. That's look, for example, at the translation process, where we translate something to French. In French, if you generate the adjective, then you also have to look at the gender of the noun when you generate the adjective. So for translating something into French, you cannot just look at the adjective, but you also have to look at the noun that it refers to. So there you have to have attention on different parts of the input for the single output that you are generating. But now the really new thing of transformers is self-attention. This hasn't been in previous models, and self-attention basically allows you to weight things inside the input and compare them to each other and put them into relation with each other. So what parts of the input have to be considered together? Which parts of the input belong together? And this then really enables you to get a model that understands context and therefore basically understands what is written. So it's not just it looks at it word by word, it's just the words, but it can really understand the context and therefore get a model of reality through the text. And for example, let's look at these two sentences. So we have here, we spent the afternoon fishing at the lake and caught a large bass. And the bass in the song was so powerful. Sure, the pronunciation is different, but if you just look at the text, you don't see a difference between bass and bass, but they obviously mean completely different things. So in the first sentence, we talk about a fish, and in the second sentence, we talk about an element of music, right? So completely different, and the only way we can figure this out if we just have the text is the context. And these transformer-based models are really good at this, so they won't have a trouble doing this, because in the second sentence you have the word song, and in its input data the model would have learned that every time a bass is shown together with the word song, then it has something to do with music. Then it's this meaning of the word. And if you have it in context with a lake or catching or fishing, then it knows that this type of fish is meant, right? So this is then the context that enables the model to basically get a sense of reality, a model of reality. And this then enables very powerful things. Two very prominent models that are based on these transformers is the GPT model, the generative pre-trained transformer, and the BERT model. So GPT is by OpenAI, which Microsoft has a stake in it, right? And BERT is then the model by Google, which is also now getting more traction. But both of these models are slightly different, but they're both based on the general transformer model, which was introduced in 2017, so very recently. And then another very important thing is in this context is so-called transfer learning, because instead of starting from scratch every time, we can just train a base model and then fine-tune this base model. And this is also something that's can be very easily done with these transformer models. They're very suited to do this. For example, let's say we have a model that can recognize cats. Now we would just do some fine tuning, and then it's able to recognize dogs or elephants. Because as you can imagine, the tools or the concepts you need to recognize a cat are similar to what you need to detect a dog. So, or for generating text. So if you have a model that knows English, then it's way easier to make this model write a poem, right? So, and this is obviously, rather obvious to do it this way, because it's also how we do it with people, right? We don't just send them into university when they are 2 years old and tell them you're going to be an astrophysicist, but we put everyone through the school system first. So you have elementary school, high school, where we just teach them general knowledge, and then during university we fine-tune them basically to then, and then this fine-tuning step always continues also during the working phase. So this is very natural to do it this way. And one example that was developed in recent years is ChatGPT. Many people know it, of course. So it's based on the GPT models, 3.5 or 4 if you have GPT plus, and it uses an enormous set of training data. So it's basically they scrape the entire internet and then taught the model from this, and then they fine-tuned it to be a helpful assistant. So there's then this fine-tuning step, and but in the end, what it really does is it takes input text and then completes it by looking for the words that are most likely to come next. And there it uses its internal model from the context and everything. So it just completes it with useful words that could follow. And that's all what it does, basically. But it's very powerful. It does many useful things, and it works quite well for how simple it is at the very base. Thank you.
All right, we have a comment. I need to show it. It's so good. It's from Catherine. So I mean, she agrees with you. She's gonna start saying that she fine-tuned.
Yeah, you basically are, right?
I'm not sure if that's an okay thing to say, Catherine, but fine.
Okay, then Oliver, I think he disconnected.
Oh, did we lose Oliver? No.
Yeah. So I mean, he's sharing.
He's moving.
Are you back?
What do you need? Do you need to change the slide? And he's sharing.
Yeah. So the next one, and he's going to switch over actually.
Okay, I'm not sure if people can hear me now because I've had some connectivity issues right now in the last slide, so I did not. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, then I will just continue and assume that everybody understands me perfectly well. So, after this nice overview, so there's of course a ton of possibility that you can do with these generative AI tools. I think that is quite obvious, and specifically for events and marketing, the idea of generative AI is that you have some type of an input, like for example, you do a text and you can create text with it, you can create videos with it, images, voices. You can create pretty much anything with these tools that you need in order to do advertisement. And in probably a couple of years, it's going to be so far that you will have very good, fully generated AI advertisements from simple prompts for specific products. Now, for the idea of what else could generative AI do, this is just a very interesting thing that we saw published just a few months ago from Meta, was that instead of using text in order to, for example, generate images, they were actually using brain activity to generate images from that brain activity. So this is very, 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 very interesting, of course. Now, on the left side, you see the actual picture that a person has been looking at. And they put a device on their head to monitor the brain activity. And from that input, they were able to generate an image that pretty much resembles the core features of what this person has been looking at. And this is, of course, extremely fascinating in terms of the capability with how we eventually will interact with machines. But now a little bit more hands-on. What exactly can this do for professional events, and what parts of them are going to be the most effective? Now, digital content creation and marketing are, of course, a very big thing, but that is not so much what we want to focus on right now. We care a lot more about data and, in general, what we can refer to as the insight industry. So a professional event is always a gathering of the professionals for one specific time, for one specific location. And that, of course, harnesses a lot of potential in terms of what can I do with this professional community on site? What methods can I use in order to collect their knowledge, their information on a specific issue? Then, of course, also, how does the individual attendee experience the event, right? What information is going to be presented to the individual? How can they structure their experience? And how can they communicate, for example, with the organizers? And then, of course, the entire IT infrastructure is going to be changing a lot within the next years because of these new tools that can be put in place. Now, in general, if we think of these AI tools for this application, we can say that it makes a lot of things economical that already would have been, in principle, possible before, but just not feasible. Like, for example, giving everybody their own personal assistant at hand that guides them through the event because they know everything about the event. Now, this is something, of course, you can put a real person to every attendee and say you are now the personal assistant to that attendee, but that is not economical. But in principle, it would be possible. Now, what we focus on is specifically collecting data and using AI tools to build different venues in how you collect data, and then also make this data, let's say, usable for the organizers, but also for the attendees at the same time. And one of these examples is an interface that we're going to show later on, which is a multilingual voice-based interface for surveys and for feedback. And the idea is really as simple as possible. People with a link, they access the website, and this website you can just leave a voice memo at. And this can be done in any language. This can be done via text. This can be pretty much as long as you want it to be. And this is the way that you can now communicate with your larger group and audience. Especially during a presentation when the attention of your crowd is extremely high, this is where the participation is going to be the highest as well. If I send this around in an email only after the event once, the participation is going to be a lot smaller. So the idea is you have a lot more audience engagement in how you can communicate with them, and you can include live insights from that very open-ended qualitative survey within the presentation as well. And this is what we think is a very easy and comfortable way for a large group of people to communicate with the organizers or with the professional presenters on site. And that is also what we plan to do with the Fabric February. So we will supply you with one of these interfaces, and then people can just over time collect all their thoughts and ideas and what they would like the organizers to know in a very simple and easy to use fashion. Another thing we think is going to be quite a big player, especially in events, is personal assistance for the events. And I don't only mean things like a chatbot that can navigate you on the website a little bit, but really AI tools that can also do tasks, for example, like contact individual people automatically. The idea here is that every event is unique and every event has a specific knowledge base. And like Tobias said earlier, the idea of, for example, the GPT models is you have a base model, and then you can do a lot of fine-tuning and learning with that model. And this is a similar approach here. So you use a very sophisticated general AI, and you give it your very event-specific knowledge base. And now this AI can tell you specifically, also based on the interests that the individual attendee may bring, what type of things could be interesting, when do these things happen, who is attending. It can be updated live because you can just update the knowledge base, and then the AI can access this at the same time as well. And the reason why this is cool is not just because this allows the individual attendee to navigate easier on the event, but you can also understand what are the topics that people always talk to with this assistant, because you can collect all the data from these conversations. And this is, of course, extremely useful. Now, in principle, if an attendee talks to somebody organizing the event, the information is always somewhat shared, but now you have this all at a central place, and you can actually make statistical analyses with the topics that are mentioned and with the things that happen. So it doesn't only just help your support team and your attendees, it also gives you a lot of new data that you can now use to improve the event experience for either the next time or this specific event. Another thing that we are quite excited about is that in terms of surveys, like a general survey usually tends to be not the most exciting. And there is a reason why interviews are better, because if you have a person interviewing another person, they can also follow up on individual topics, and they can make this a very individual conversation, although it's always guided around specific questions that you want to ask. Now, of course, it's not feasible to interview every individual person or every individual attendee by putting like a real person there, because you have to pay this person. It takes a lot of time. But using AI assistants, you can also build interview chatbots. And you can give them a specific line of questioning and tell them how they should follow up on specific things. And now they can be a very engaging collection tool for information that it goes far beyond a regular survey, because it adapts on the conversation that you have. And now all the data of this conversation is, of course, also with you, and you can immediately use this to build your insights. Another thing that we thought was also very interesting is that you have a team on site in general that manages all the organization. Now, the Fabric February team is rather small, but if you think on larger events like a trade show or an expo, for example, with several 100,000 attendees, there's tons of people on site that are constantly moving around and they're constantly talking to people, and they constantly collect and get feedback and have ideas. Now, they don't all want to take notes, and especially nobody wants to put all these notes together in the end. And this is why you can use the same idea of the feedback interface also for your team as a collection hub of all type of information that people can very comfortably just integrate and just like say it in their phone in whatever language, and it's automatically there, and the individual person on site doesn't have to deal with it anymore, but the data is collected and you don't really miss anything anymore that people are sharing with the event attendee team on site. And what we plan to do with the Fabric February is pretty much this. So this is an example, and you can now access this via this QR code. You can access one of these interfaces, and it's about a specific question. And the question here is, where do you see the biggest potential for AI in events? And we would just like to have a few minutes where you can answer this question. You just scan the code or look at the link in the chat, and you can give your answer to this question. And then we're going to have a look at how this at how these answers distribute.
All right. I will put in my answer too. I think it's really interesting. And both as an attendee and an organizer, you see it's sometimes, or at least this is how I feel, that when I'm an attendee, it's sometimes not that easy to give feedback, or because you're running around, you're trying to be part of this conference and do all the things and attend all the sessions. And how can I do that if I have to, I don't know. Sometimes I need to write on a note. Sometimes there is this forms thing that I need to fill in, and it just takes, I need to be really focused to do it, and so on. So the thing that you can just talk into your phone is really cool.
I mean, it helps really cool. A lot in making things more accessible in general, right? And this is really what I would say, like, AI is not just good for analyzing data here, but it's a great tool in getting new venues and how you can collect it and how comfortable you can collect the data at your event.
Yeah, I agree. It's cool. Oh, should I leave an anonymous voice message?
Sure.
Okay, wait. I'm going to mute myself so that this is actual. Okay, I'm back, I think. I tried.
Yeah, okay. We'll just give it another 2 minutes, and then we will just have a look at what the first live analysis of the responses looks like. How many people are currently attending the live stream? Do you know?
It depends on what we can. So we are inside this event live stream studio right now, and we can only see parts of the attendees. But in total, we might be, if I go into all these sites, I'm stalking us, it looks like we are around 12, 15.
Okay.
Go so up and down.
Yeah. So the idea is, of course, to have like an example, so that people, if they watch this video later on, that they would have a rough idea on how this principle works, and that this type of feedback thing also is a very permanently open stream to collect information from the attendee. So it doesn't only have to be like a one-time thing that you do, but it's just like if there are more things that are coming up, this is where you share it with the organizers. This is where you can share your thoughts.
But that's also great because when you are experiencing something at that moment, and it's going to be about was it easy for me to find the session that I was going to attend, and then that will be something you can give feedback on right there. Or did I like the coffee, or did I not like the coffee? Am I hungry now? Should there have been some snacks? The important things.
It also, of course, you can also monitor, of course, when people talk about these things, right? Like when they give
yes.
feedback, and then you trace back to what happened at the event, for example, that could have caused this.
We can watch it in real time, so that means that we, in theory, could try and act on it in real time too, and see if we can fix it, like right there. If we see that everyone is complaining about coffee,
so
or
maybe we
that they're
can
hungry.
look at some results already.
Yes, let me quickly go to the other tab. All right, so this is a very simple. Yeah, so this is a very simple example on how this would look like. So now we have a total of 9 answers. Right now, 2 of them have been submitted as a voice message. And we see, for example, how long the individual answers are and what the language distribution also is of these answers.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Excuse me?
Can you zoom in a bit?
It's hard to see.
Because it looks interesting and I want to see everything. Okay, cool.
This is better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So this is, of course, a very small example on how this can look like. So we have a different type of language distribution, different type of answer
length. I could answer it in Norwegian. I could have talked in my own language, any language.
Of course, yeah. Also, Mandarin doesn't matter.
Maybe this is something that we need to highlight a bit more, and it's actually very entertaining. So, for example, the categorization that we do, it does not depend on the type of language that you actually put in, because these tools are already so good at automatically translating things and understanding the meaning of what people say. And this is all part of the pipeline. And what we've done here, because this is a very similar approach to what we did at the other event, we had some categories that we thought of, like, for example, content creation, visitor surveys, saving time, marketing, communication. And what we do now is we look at the answers and we see what of this answer contains information on one of the following categories, for example.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have an overall distribution on what type of things are going to be the most talked about, let's say. And here the main category would be visitor surveys, for example. And now if you want to go into further detail, you can go into the individual category and you can look at the quotes that have been said about that specific category of the total answer. So you don't always have to read the entirety of the answer, because sometimes people say things about multiple things, but it already structures you the answer in a way that you now know what specific component of the answer has been referring to that category. And if you want to go even further, if you have more answers, of course, than 9, but maybe 900 or 9,000 for a very large event, you can also just let yourself summarize these categories or these individual components of that category. And so now you know how many people have said something about visitor surveys, and you know exactly what most people have been talking about visitor surveys. And this is also the same way that the type of feedback would be structured, for example, for the event. Different categories, of course, and also categories that come naturally from what people are talking about. So categories that we did not think of ourselves in the beginning. But this is the idea on how you can use these AI tools to build a pipeline that can tell you live what people are talking about for your event or for other specific niche topics.
Yeah, cool. And that's pretty much live. So if Ollie would refresh now, then more answers came, then there would just be incorporated. So
this is really cool. I agree with Catherine. This is cool.
And that's also the idea of this. Sorry.
And this is, for example,
interface. Okay, so the lag is a bit of problem.
Toby, you go. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's also the idea of this team node interface. Then, of course, you can also during the event see what your team talked to. So you don't have to schedule a meeting 1 week after the event and then ask everyone. So, what did people tell you? So, but you can every member of the team can then see live what the other team members talked with the attendees.
Oh, that's great. So we can have our volunteers or ourselves go walk around and say, do you have any feedback, to make sure that people are actually also giving that, and then have them talk into that phone.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter, for example, if it is an attendee that talks into the interface or one of your team members on site, because the information is the same, right? So if somebody maybe doesn't, if they are maybe too lazy or they don't want to participate in this, but they tell you something and now they told you, you can just give a quick summary of what they told you, and it's all collected and it's all part of the database. Yeah.
Yes. And then, so if I overhear something or I understand that there is a buzz about something somewhere, I could just, so now this and this is happening, and this is successful, or we need to fix this.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the idea. And the same process, for example, also would go if you have an interview chatbot and not like, this is now a single question that we ask, but if, for example, you would analyze the interview that like an AI interview bot has with a person, you also have the same way of like structuring this into individual questions and then saying what topics come for the individual questions, because it's already part of your database, it's already part of the pipeline. Nobody has to type it in again anymore, and you just send out the interview bot and he talks, or she talks, and it talks to everybody, and then you have everything around already, and it's part of the same analysis. Now, of course, for hundreds of people, this makes a lot more sense than for 9 people or for 11. But I think that the idea has become clear.
Yeah, and the real-time aspect is really cool because it makes it possible to try and fix things if we see that. I mean, if there's something that is easy to fix, maybe that the sign on the door is not there, or we're not able to.
Yeah,
I don't know. People are not finding the room or something. We can okay, we're gonna put up a sign, and then we're fixing it as we go. That's also cool. Nice.
And we also
So the
felt that
categories, are they automatically generated, or do you put them in?
So they're pre-trained here. So correct, but so usually what you have is when you have you don't have your event just once, but then over time you figure out more categories that would make sense, and then you pre-train those, right? So yes,
but you can
they
also
have to be pre-trained
very easily.
Yeah.
Nice. I have a lot of questions. This is really cool. Can people like tag? What if we say that we want to have the specific feedback for specific speakers or specific sessions? Can they like say that I'm now giving feedback towards X, Y, Z?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So if you have like an ID, for example, for the talk, that's probably the easiest way. Then you just pretty much filter by, you make this a category, right? Think of it like this: like you make this ID, or you make this speaker and this event, you make this a category, and now you have everything within that category, like here, and then you have pretty much every statement that is about this, or you have tagged all the answers about that specific person, so you don't
maybe
even have
Oliver, you could also show this correlation matrix, because then if you have one talk being a category, then you would see whether this for example, category negative correlates with this talk. Then would people they said lots of negative things about this talk.
Oh yes.
Right. So here we have the correlation matrix where we can then see what correlates.
Yeah.
In the categories, what was mentioned together.
And there are also more things that you can do with this that are not part of the fully automatic pipeline right now, because of course every data set is different, right? And if you have thousands of answers of people, you might find some trends that you want to explore in greater detail than just with what you have already done for the automatic pipeline, but it gives you a very good initial overview. And this is how we also kind of like structure this, in terms of there is a good overview, but then you go into greater detail if you have more information on specific subjects that people care about.
So, and because obviously I'm coming from the data world, so is it possible to export this data and then do analysis on whatever tool you want to? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So this is also what we often do. So we for many customers, we do an in-depth analysis then later on of something, in addition to this live thing, and for that we export the data to ourselves basically, but we could also hand it to the customer. Sure.
Cool.
Let's just say that most of the people that we work with are not professionals in data. This is a very big coincidence that the event that we now work with also happens to be a community of professional data analysis. So, yeah.
That's true. I mean, we love the data, so obviously we want all the data. But that's cool. So and if I want to distribute, because the speakers obviously they want to get all the feedback, they want to know how well they did or know what they can improve on. How would I distribute that to them? Would that be me putting out the data, or is there a way to like share it or share specific parts of the feedback?
I mean, I think what we would do in that sense is we would just export these individual categories, where the category would be the individual presenter.
Yes, perfect.
And then give you everything attached to that specific presenter, for example.
Nice.
That would be the idea of that, yeah.
And then they would get they could get the summarized part and the like to see the trends and so on.
This is something that, of course, you could supply them with. Like anyone, you tell them how many people have said something about your talk. What did they say about the talk? Do you want, for example, the entire sentence, the entire topic, or do you want only the summary? Do you also want sentiment analysis on the individual statements? Now, this is something that, because this was a very technical question here, we did not include this here right now. But of course, anytime you talk about feedback, you always have positive and negative as a general sentiment within the answer as well. And whether somebody talks positively about something or negatively. So this would also then be part of the evaluation. So yes, there's a lot of possibilities once you have the information collected, let's say.
Cool.
Yes. Are there other questions about the way that we work with the feedback, for example?
I mean, if there are any questions, write them in the chat, and we will answer. But I have more questions because this is really cool. But so I mean, obviously, yes, we're in the data world again. So I'm a bit curious about what's happening behind this. And I'm no data science expert, so just mentioning that. But is it you have built a model and you're training the model and so on?
It's based on GPT-4, actually, yeah. So it's based on GPT-4, and then what it basically does, it looks at the input from the people and checks whether something was mentioned to this category, and then extracts it, and then puts it together, and that's how then the statistics is generated. Yes, but it's not a model from scratch.
Yeah. There's a lot of individual prompts, let's say, that are running over the individual answers here. It also, I mean, currently we use GPT-4, but for example, it doesn't have to be that model in principle. It is really just, it's a very good NLP. It's a very good like language model, but in principle, you could also use others, and the better they get, the better these things also become, right? So it is not that you put every answer or the entire bulk of information into some AI, and then you just get something out of it, and there's like some big black box. But there's actually a larger series of individual prompts that are ran over in individual answers, let's say, and you then make statistics and analysis with the answers that you get from these prompts and from the results of these prompts. So the prompts are already integrated into the pipeline, let's say.
Cool. This was awesome. I'm really excited to test this out. I hope all our attendees are really excited to test this out. I know part of the data community, I mean, we have more organizers, so also for them to check out this tool and see how that can help them in their when they're doing and building these conferences. For sure, make sure to check it out. And that reminds me also, we have, so this is sci-an. You can check out their webpage if you want to have a look too. And obviously contact Oliver and Tobias if you have any questions.
So I think exactly that's pretty much from our end, the only thing that we wanted to, but this was more or less for another talk that we had, which we wanted to include here as well, in terms of like why live events are a great thing and what the future of live events could look like. Because the better AI tools and solutions become, it's also becoming some kind of a, let's say, a bit of a trust issue, maybe at some point, if you have your entire communication and community building fully virtual. Because at some point, this is just an example here of an AI-generated avatar that has a video call with somebody, and they already look quite good. And at some point, if you meet new people online, when can you be sure that this is actually a real person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good question.
Because I mean, avatars can at some point they talk like people, they sound like people, they look like people, and you can make them pretty much become any type of virtual personality that you want. And there's already tons of bots on LinkedIn that contact people about individual things. And if you only ever have virtual and digital communication with somebody, then in the future this might cause some lack of trust maybe in digital communication if the AI generated virtual personalities become better and better. But that's just a little creepy outlook into the future.
That's interesting.
So what can we say? I mean, it's going to improve countless aspects within the event industry, and the possibilities of integrating these tools, they develop insanely fast. Especially the last year has been an absolute roller coaster of development. The assistants are going to be we think, the standard on how there will be communication with attendees and with the organizers and with the event in general, because they can not only be extremely useful in helping the individual attendee, but also in supplying the organizer with the most important aspects that the event is talked about. In general, the communication between the attendees and the organizers could probably benefit the most, and how to improve the event. And one thing that we really want to highlight here is that anytime you have a professional event, you have usually the global top people of that community at a very specific time, at a very specific location. And that, of course, is an insanely powerful and useful playing field for not only market research, but any type of knowledge creation from that community. And integrating this type of knowledge creation into your event just makes the event even more valuable. And trying to sort of find a way to standardize this and ask more questions to people about specific community-driven aspects. So that is pretty much what we wanted to share. We hope that it was entertaining and useful, especially also for the people that will attend the event and wonder about how their whole feedback process takes part.
And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us.
I hope everyone got really inspired to give us all the feedback, because I mean, obviously we want all the feedback, and I think this is a great way to give it. So yeah, I got inspired at least. That's cool. All right, thank you so much for joining us, Oliver and Tobias.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, and our feedback sponsor. So I mean, we are really into the F of everything we're naming, so that you will be the Fabric feedback sponsor, which sounds perfect, because feedback in Fabric is great. So we're really excited about that. You are a Fabric feedback friend, actually. So that's your name. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll talk more about this tool when we are getting closer to the conference, and provide links and also some how-tos so that all our attendees are ready to use this. And yeah, we'll see you guys or all our attendees in February. All right, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.